As for the Houston Texans, their draft picks obviously traded out of the first round after the tackles that they coveted were gone. And they had the second pick of the second night on Friday night and took wide receiver Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. 6'4", and you know what his comp is? His comp is Nico Collins. Every comp I saw said, no, this guy reminds me of Nico Collins. And Nick Caserio drafted Nico Collins out of Michigan in the second round. And it's 6'4", 220 pounds, great catch radius, but athletic as heck, can make the play. So now you got two Nico Collins, and then with pick 79, they took Jalen Noel, his teammate at Iowa State, who's the opposite. He's the slot. He was one of the fastest and quickest guys at the combine. And in between that, with pick 48, they took Ariante Ursery.
Yeah, from Minnesota.
And, you know, this guy.
Big boy.
Big-time athletic left tackle out of the Big Ten who, because I said, look, I'm a Texans fan, so I don't want to go homer. I'm going to play some Todd McShay sound. Todd McShay is the NFL draft insider, right? I think he does a pretty good job.
He does a great job. Evaluating
players. And I'll see if I can, gosh, I got so many cuts that I sent myself here, so I gotta sift and find my Todd McShay. But Todd McShay really likes both of these picks, which gives me excitement and confidence that they did a good job. But let me start with this, though. Here is Nick Caserio, their general manager, talking about Ariante Ursery and what he brings from Minnesota to be competing in their offensive line room, rebuilt offensive line room.
Let's say Tay has a body of work. So Tay, similar to, I would say, Iowa State in some respects, Coach Fleck's program is a developmental program. They're not taking necessarily 5-star players. So Tay's got some things that he does well. He's got plenty of things that he can work on. His mindset, his attitude, his competitiveness, his physicality, his toughness, like you see that on the tape. So there's certain things that he does well. There's other things maybe he needs to work on. That's where D'Amico's talked about this. Like, this is why we coach. This is their job as coaches, is to enhance the strengths, try to improve the weaknesses, and get them to perform at whatever optimum level that is. So sometimes it takes a year, sometimes it takes a little bit longer, sometimes the guy's ready to go a little bit sooner than later. So the player is going to improve based on how much he's willing to put in and pour into it. And you saw that whether it was in the Penn State game, whether it was in all the other games in the Big Ten, you saw it at the Senior Bowl. So those are all evaluation opportunities for them, and we take everything into consideration.
All right, so there you go. I love Nick Caserio. He's a matter-of-fact guy. The process is done. We've drafted our player. Now it's about competition. The players are sorted out. We don't have anything to do with that. The guys who are going to emerge as our best 5 linemen, they'll sort that thing, and that's what the coaching is about. That's what the development is about, and that's what we're going to focus on now. But Ursery is a great athlete. He's big and he's long. I mentioned I'd get you some Todd McShay. Here's Todd McShay talking about the pick of Ariante Ursery to come in and compete with Cam Robinson, Titus Howard, Bryce Fisher, and that Texans rebuilt offensive line room.
In 2029, when we look back, Ariante Ursery will be one of the top 3 offensive tackles in this class, and maybe the best or second best offensive tackle from this group. Here's the thing with Ursery, man. On tape, I'm looking at a 6'6", 331-pounder who ran a 5.0140. And I already told you that size with that speed, what it means. Big guys that move like this don't fail. Very rarely. Orlando Browns, Dan Fa'alele, Amarius Mims, Cincinnati, Trent Brown, 6'7", 355, 7th-round pick, been in the league 100 years. This guy moves well, and he's a big, big dude, man. He surprised me on tape because he's quick and his knee bend. I think he has the potential to develop into an elite pass blocker. I do.
He certainly has potential.
All right, so there is obviously Kelvin Banks and Will Campbell, and those guys went at the top. But this guy was the next on the board, and Houston traded back thinking they could get him in the second round, and they did. So they get their tackle prospect they want, and that's high praise from Todd McShay. When D'Amico Ryans called Ariante Ursery said, hell yeah, coach, you just got the best tackle in the draft. So he's a confident kid who's played in the Big Ten. He's gone up against the Abdul Carters, and you can see him on tape going up against some of the best pass rushers in football, and he does a nice job. He's a younger guy, so Houston's got a tackle. Now, again, he doesn't have to come in and start. Remember, they signed Cam Robinson, who was starting in Jacksonville and then traded to Minnesota this year. They brought, Titus Howard can play tackle. Bryce Fisher, they took in the second round at Notre Dame last year. He projects as one of the tackles. Slide guys into guard. So, again, it's a rebuilt line. They think they've changed the culture. They really wanted Tyler Booker, who the Cowboys took, but they couldn't trade up. The Cowboys wouldn't trade out of it, so they end up going with the young guy out of Minnesota. As for the 2 receivers out of Iowa State, Jalen Noel, same thing from Todd McShay. He likes these two receivers quite a lot.
Can't click on a team. Home runs.
The last pick, I was lower on Jalen Smith than I think other people, but the first three are home runs.
Home runs. Jalen Smith, he went where?
Late third.
99?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Or 97 maybe, but yeah.
I mean, they took my two favorite receivers, my absolute favorite, the teammates from Iowa State.
Teammates.
Reunited. Feels so good. Jaden Higgins, wide receiver, 6'4", and juice. Ran in the 4.4s. We talked about him earlier today, folks. Great release package off the line of scrimmage. Can run past you at that size, the 33-plus inch arm length. Contested catches, 20 of them this last year. Led the Big 12. Jalen Noah.
Don't say it like that.
Jalen Noah.
In the middle of the third, huh?
I couldn't believe it. It was the steal of the entire draft. Everyone wants to talk about Shador and the quarterback. But when you get Jalen Noah, and he's going to come in and he's going to break NFL cornerbacks' ankles with his...
All right, there's Tom McShay calling Jalen Noah in the third round the steal of the draft. And Houston already had Nico Collins. They have Joe Mixon. They also took a kid, Woody Marks, out of USC in the fourth round as a running back.
He spent a lot of time at Mississippi State, and he had over 1,000 yards at USC last year.
This is a deep running back class. That's why we say beauty in the eye of the beholder and what's going to fit. In Houston, Woody Marks is the perfect complement to Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, remember their games last year with Joe Mixon had over 30 carries. That just doesn't happen in the NFL. They needed a second back, and this kid Woody Marks in the fourth round to go with the two receivers and the tackle. I think it's a good class. I mean, obviously they ended up without a first-round pick, but turned that into 5 good players. They improved their secondary as well with a couple of picks, a safety out of Penn State and a cornerback out of USC. And remember, the kid they were talking about, Smith, at the beginning, he got drafted a little higher than a lot of people thought, but he's a corner out of USC. He played last year with Kalen Bullock, who the Texans took out of USC, and a lot of people thought it was too high, and he turned out to be a really good player for them. I think he led all rookies in interceptions this past season down in Houston. So the Texans, big thumbs up. I just trust what Nick Caserio does. I think he's really putting together a solid young roster, and with young players, and now they need to take that next step. They need to improve their offensive line, build on the addition of Joe Mixon last offseason, give him some blocking up front, and protect C.J. Stroud. Now you have Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz at tight end, Cade Stover at tight end. You have Jalen Noah and to compete with Jaden Higgins. That's a good receiver room right there. They're young, they're fast, they're athletic, and here's Nick Caserio on their draft philosophy and what the type of players they're looking for. And this pertains to Shador Sanders or any of these guys. This is how Nick Caserio approaches drafting football players.
Added youth, toughness, speed, athleticism, overall competitiveness on both sides of the football, and hopefully that just enhances the overall performance of our football team. I think practice is going to be a lot of fun. I mean, there's going to be a lot of talking back and forth, whether it's Jalen Smith. I mean, I know we'll talk about CJ, GJ there, he'll be involved in some of that, but these guys are going to want to compete, and it's only going to make each other better. I mean, we're not even talking about Kamari Lassiter, who's competitive as any player probably have in the building. So the idea was to try to add good players that are good people, that are young, that are tough, that are hungry, that want to win, that put the team first. And I think these picks sort of exemplify that. So, I'm not necessarily going to go through a breakdown of each individual pick. I'm sure I'll get some questions about some of the players, but kind of go from there.
All right, young, team first, competitive as hell, dogs, the swarm mentality, as D'Amico Ryans calls it. I do think if Houston gets the O-line right, because look, there are teams in the AFC you're battling with. Kansas City had a great draft. Buffalo had a great draft. Buffalo went all defense. Like, essentially, Buffalo told Josh Allen, hey, man, you got the offense. They took, I think, 90% of their picks were defensive players. Buffalo went all defense. They're trying to get that side of the ball improved. Kansas City. Baltimore, all they do is draft good football players too. So at this point, it's going to be about development of C.J. Stroud, taking that next step, protecting C.J. Stroud, giving him more weapons, which they've done, getting another good year out of Joe Mixon. I think Houston is poised to make a run. I mean, they've won the division back-to-back years. They'll still be the heavy favorites to win the division this year, no matter what Tennessee or Indianapolis or Jacksonville has done. And now it's about getting some home playoff games and having a chance to play deeper into the AFC playoffs. But I love
the draft too. I think it was a great draft. I love the fact that we were so impressed with the Iowa State, both the guys. Wide receivers. We kept talking about watch out for both the Iowa State receivers, the kid from TCU back who got drafted, I believe, in the third or second round. But yeah, man, that's impressive. Just add more to that help. out C.J. Stroud. If you're not getting the old lineman, go get other receivers.
You know what's
for him.
funny? The Texas teams, the Cowboys have a lot of Tylers, right? Tyler Guyton, Tyler Booker, Tyler Smith. The Texans have a lot of Jalen's.
Jalen's, yeah.
And Jaden's. And Jalen's. I mean, they got a bunch of Jalen's, man. They like Jalen's, but they like good athletes to compete.